That's why the officials are there. That's why the National High Command is there.
But they could be removed at a whim by the president the next day. He doesn't even need to come and take a vote with them. They don't need to vote into that. That's the power that sits only with the president.
Clemens, you are focusing on their removal.
Machine politically incorrect. I've heard a lot of people commenting about this this constitution of the MK party. I have tried to go through it. Sometimes I could not get the time. I could not get the time in time to come and dwell on it. So today I thought, let me just get an opportunity to go through it. There are very few things that I picked up. I'm not going to go line by line. I'm just going to go through the first one in the sections, but I'm only going to read the topical thing that come out from it. Number one, let's start. So on the membership, it says all members who join MKP will be placed on probation for a period of 24 months after joining. Well, cooling off period. Let's leave that. We'll find time to discuss what it means, but if I find time, maybe I'll dwell on it. The powers envisaged in clause 6 and 7 shall only be exercised with the concurrence of the president, the supreme ruler, President Jacob Zuma. The National Command and the officials have the power to cancel the membership exclusively assigned to the National Command and the National of the but not provinces. So provinces, sub-regions, and ward and voting district do not have the power to cancel membership. And then I'm going to jump to the next one. Is the MKP are not allowed, members of the MKP are not allowed to join and participate in political parties whose aims and objective contradict the aims and objectives of the MKP. But in highly exceptional and strategical circumstances, of course with the approval of the national officials and the High Command. So the High Command will be the NEC. And again, I'm sorry, I'm going to use analogies that we are used to in the ANC. So it will be those highly exceptional strategic circumstances. Floyd has alluded to this, so I don't want to dwell a lot on it. So the membership will be 20 rands. So it lasts for 24 months. And member must pay the membership fees by themselves and not paid for by another member. And it says deposited individually, maybe one by one, where members, comrades come in and give this thing one by one. So where I'm the one who's joining and I'm paying this one. So this is one, I'm just thinking individually. Because themselves, what they are trying to avoid here, this is just what I'm thinking, is trying to improve the problem that the ANC has. The ANC has a problem of bulk membership, where someone just take a hostel, takes 100 people in a hostel, creates membership, and that's his wisdom list. So I'm just thinking it could be created based on that. Being the first to bear the hardship and the last to enjoy efforts, working selflessly for the public interest. This one, sorry for laughing. All members of MKP are encouraged to engage in genuine criticism and self-criticism. So, criticisms, and there's a part that Floyd also spoke at length about, swearing at people. Genuine criticism and self-criticism. I'll speak about the other part when it comes, but let me speak about the hardships, and the first to bear hardships and the last to enjoy the benefits. So this, I think, is self-explanatory. How real is it? How honest is it? Can these comrades honestly sacrifice themselves, their happiness, their joy, and their so they will be the one who bear the hardships first, and the last to enjoy this one. This one, let's agree not to agree. This one is not gonna fly. Okay, number 7. MKP must reject all forms of hatred towards black people in South Africa and the African continent and the African diaspora. MKP members must resist tribalism, sexism, racism, and must treat everyone with utmost respect and dignity. Members of MKP must respect and honor religious leaders. Okay, let's pass. It's self-explanatory because MKP wants to draw itself as not a tribal party. So this is the organizational leadership and structure. This is the order of interest. This is a pecking order. So this is the pyramid. This is what Maslow calls the hierarchy of needs. So the needs are as follows. The president takes the biggest interest. The royal house, this is where the traditional leaders, let me not qualify it, not traditional leaders, but kings and queens. This one is the royal house. Council of traditional and religious leaders, so this is where other religious leaders will be there, and then religious leaders will be there. So you'd find Bushiri and other religious leaders, they will be there. Then we talk about the national officials. So the national officials will be those who are, in the ANC they call it the top 6. Here I think they're top 8. Yeah, it's top 8. In the MK it's top 8, in the ANC it's top 6. But they made few amendments that too many now. So, and then comes the National High Command. The National High Command is the NEC. Then the Secretariat. The Secretariat, very critical point. You'll hear it down there. After the Secretariat, then the provincial detachments. Provincial detachments are PECs. Then the regional detachments. Sub-regional detachments, these are zones. Zones. I'm giving ANC political speak deliberately. These are zones. Ward detachments. So a ward is what in the ANC is called a branch. And then voting district departments. This one was put here in a very difficult way. Voting district detachment. And then, well, I don't know this one. I can't find a weight in it in the ANC. MKP voting district based branch. So in the ANC, a VD is a place where people are voting. At some point, the ANC wanted to pursue that to be a sub-region, no, a sub-branch. So in here, they've actually made it an actual branch. The ANC constitution talks about it as being a sub-branch because it's below a branch. Now here, MK, they have actually made it a branch. Will it work? It's going to be very difficult because we'll see as it unfolds. The president, he's the commander general of the MKP and gives political and ideological guidance. The president will assign, this is the most critical one that I've not seen in South Africa. This is what Jacob Zuma has always wanted. So this, if you remember, and I don't want to dwell much on it, if you remember before Floyd left, we spoke about how the EFF can have a constitution that allows Julius Malema to lead without being actively involved in day-to-day running of EFF, just to allow Floyd to spread his wings and grow the party, because with Julius is a ceiling. So the president will assign head of presidency, who will be the chief of staff, with full participation rights in all meetings and structures of the organization. The president is responsible for deployment and appointment, restructuring, removal of all national officials, members of the National High Command, including provincial governors and coordinators. These are the powers given to the president. So this chief of staff will go around representing the interest of the president, allowing the president to run this from Nkandla. International relations, everything is in the president's office. That's Jacob Zuma. The president has the right to delegate any member of the National High Command to perform, listen to this, any function of the organization. The president has the right to delegate any member of the National High Command to perform any function of the organization. So this is besides, of course, the chief of staff, who is Jacob Zuma de facto. The president is responsible for engagement with recognized kings and queens on behalf of the organization. The president shall have ultimate power. Let's read it again. The president shall have ultimate power to issue presidential decrees on any matter pertaining to the operation, administration, policy direction of the organization. Underline ultimate power to issue presidential decrees. The president may determine and convene policy and consultative conference to discuss issues and matter deemed important for the growth of the organization. So what it means is the NGCs, the policy conferences, the elective conferences, this is the prerogative of Jacob Zuma. When he feels that we need to do it, then they can do it. This is what this clause is. The Royal House, we spoke about the Royal House, recognized kings and queens in South Africa. They are already recognized. Floyd says they are not going to bring new people. They are not going to appoint and recognize. These people are already recognized by South Africa, and they are there. They are there. The Royal House interfaces with MKP through the president. The Council of Traditional Healers, all cultures, languages, and religions in South Africa. And then this council, it will have two conveners, one representing the religious guys, so those will be the Bushiris, the ZCC, the Shembe, and then the other one will be representing, is like another convener who will be representing the traditional leaders, Queen Mojaji, King or Queen Mpepu, all of those things. So they will have two conveners in this traditional council. They will have two meetings, and these two meetings they will present their reports through the president and the secretary general. The national officials, there are 8. We spoke about them. That's the president, deputy president, secretary general, deputy secretary general, national organizer, that's Floyd Shibambu, the national chairperson, the deputy national chairperson, and the treasurer general. National officials meet every 2 weeks. So this national that top 6 meet every 2 weeks. The deputy president, see, this one was deliberately written for Comrade Dr. Judge Hlophe. It says the deputy president, if he or she is the member of parliament, will be head of parliamentary caucus, the legal affairs, and responsible for national disciplinary matters. Yeah, so see, this was written directly for Judge Hlophe. Secretary General will be membership, deployment, governance. Of course, the communication office reports to the Secretary General. You will see as we read that the Secretary General and Floyd Shibambu, the national organizer, they actually share roles. If it even says Secretary General, in concurrence with the national organizer, is responsible for establishment of the MKP structures and the detachments. So the structures you'll see down there and what detachments are. The Deputy Secretary General is the HR of the organization, and he deals with contractual obligations. I don't know who's the Secretary General expertise currently. I might be thinking this might have been looked at who he is. I'm just preempting things. The national organizer, that's Floyd Shibambu. The organizational documents, political education, policy research, monitoring and evaluation, governance, particular MKP caucuses. So the MKP caucus would be in the National Assembly and then cadre deployment. He'll be in charge with representing MKP in IEC structures, MKP structures, and the detachment. So, like I said, his role doubles a lot with what the MKP envisages for comrades. Stakeholder relations, traditional leaders and religious sector, that's the national chairperson. He is not given a lot of powers, man, according to what I do, besides chairing the meeting. It's a ceremonial office, this one. The deputy will be dealing with the welfare of military veterans, ex-combatants, and struggle against apartheid, I'm wondering after 15 years, what would this role be doing? Because we will not have military veterans as combatants and struggle against apartheid, unless they're talking about the current military. That's just me, because in ANC speak, when we speak about military veterans, and we're speaking about ex-MK, APLA, and stuff, maybe they are just encompassing everyone. Security of the organization, of course, goes to the deputy chairperson, the treasurer general, all assets, and he also is entitled to enter into a binding agreement. Please pause to read if you need to. You can just pause and read. Lease agreements, employment contracts, and business commitments on behalf of the organization are President, Secretary General, and the Treasurer General. If any letter, contract, or is not signed by any of the officials mentioned above is not binding on the organization, the National High Command, highest decision-making body in the MKP, appointed by the President. So, like I said, the National High Command is exactly what the NEC is. And the National High Command may not exceed 45 males and females. And at the beginning, they want 40% to be a minimum. But after 5 years, 50% will then be an accepted minimum. The President and Secretary General of MK Women's League, MK Youth League, and Student Command will serve in the National High Command as ex-officio members. The National High Command will take place at least once every quarter. So this is the NEC, maybe 4 times a year. Let's just say 4 times a year. Parliamentary should not exceed 10% of the National High Command. So if you look at MK structures, we spoke to Comrade Pumpgun in the convener of Gauteng. We spoke about how Ntoni has left MKP political structures because he's deployed in the legislature. This is consistent, very highly consistent with what is happening in this constitution, because what they want that continuation. People who hold political office are actually removed from those who are deployed in government and in legislatures, which I think this is brilliant. It says, exceptional circumstances of deploying members, the NHL should necessarily ensure that those deployed in parliament should not exceed 10% of the National High Command. The National High Command has the power to disband, dissolve any leadership structure of the organization. The power to pass motion of no confidence or remove any of the national officials. Let me repeat and give it more meat. The National High Command, that is the NEC, does not have the power to pass a motion of no confidence or remove any national officials. The NEC of Mkhonto Wesizwe cannot remove the president. I have not seen a clause that speaks about the incapacity of when the president is incapacitated. It could be there, but when I read, I could not see it. I would have liked to state it, but like I said, I don't know. I'm not going to read the whole entire thing. So the president can't be removed by a motion of no confidence. Even if it's one Zuma and the rest, 44 of them cannot outvote Jacob Zuma. The National High Command, the addition to the prescribed number of 45, it says the National Command shall retain the sole power to co-opt or create any new positions in addition to the 45. Secretariat, so the secretariat is where the General Secretary runs that body. It has the national organizer inside, it has the Deputy General Secretary, it had the head of the presidency. I think head of the president is that chief of staff, and of course the chief administrators. The national chairperson and the treasurer are ex-officio members there. This is the engine of this organization. Provincial detachment is the highest decision-making body in that province. Is a detachment, and this detachment, the provincial detachment is appointed by the national officials. Remember, there are no elective conferences at MKP. So all these structures are going to be appointed. So these people are not going to be democratically given to people. They are going to be appointed by the national officials. The national officials is not the NEC. The national officials is the top 8. So in the top 8, they're gonna come up with this list. The provincial detachment must have a minimum of 1 meeting every 2 months. Let me skip this. The provincial detachment is not permitted to take decisions that contradict the national. Well, you'll find this consistent. These guys are not autonomous. Even if they say they are autonomous, but they actually not, because the MK Women's League and the Youth League are said to be autonomous, but they do not have those powers to contradict. When Jacob Zuma killed ANC Youth League, he had problems with them not speaking what the ANC was speaking at the time, and they contested the fact that they are autonomous. They don't have to agree with everything ANC was doing. And Jacob Zuma and Cyril Ramaphosa, they killed the ANC Youth League. It's still struggling today. It will never come back to its heights. So, to be a provincial detachment, you must be a full-time resident of that province and be registered to vote there. You will see it's consistent with other structures as well. And these detachments in the province are not allowed to appoint and remove any member of the region and sub-regional detachments. Members serving in the provincial detachment will not be deployed to representative bodies such as the council, provinces, legislatures, and. So, like I said, it's consistent with everything. Regional detachments, 1 meeting per month. These are the regions. And in this region, you must be a full-time resident there and be registered to vote there. Members voting in this shall not be deployed to represent the bodies such as councils, provincial legislatures, and the national department. So once you are an REC member at MK, if you get deployed in the council or legislature, you relinquish this position. And then they've got the sub-regional detachments. I'm not going to read. And then the ward detachment. Ward detachment is what the ward is in the ANC. And then voting district detachment. So this voting district detachment. So this is a VD. This is a VD in the ANC. Here it's actually a voting district detachment. It has a VD coordinator and 10 gender-based other. It must be gender balanced with 10 members. The 12-member voting district detachment must necessarily be comprised of a minimum of 6 females. 1 meeting per 2 weeks. It's a VD detachment. And then they've got a voting district-based branch. This is the most basic unit. It has 50 members led by a VD detachment. So the VD detachment, so every time you hear detachment, so it's very confusing and it's very new. So a VD, it's a voting district. Most branches will have 3, 4, 5 VDs. So in the MK, these VDs will be branches, but they've got a detachment in that VD that leads them. So this detachment would somehow maybe be EXCO. Let's just call it EXCO. That's what it means. The basic unit of the organization must have a minimum of 50 members. I think I'm repeating what the VDB branch is. MKP VD-based branch must circulate MKP media statements, political documents in social media platforms and WhatsApp groups created for political work in the VD. So you would hear people in WhatsApp groups lamenting the fact that, stop sharing things. The MK Constitution actually promotes of these ground forces to regurgitate all these messages in WhatsApp groups. Umkhonto wesizwe Women's League. Any woman who's a member of MKP will be allowed to be here, and the membership starts at age 16. You'll see why I'm stating this with the with the Youth League. Umkhonto Wesizo will have its own leadership structures led by the National Women's Detachment. The National Detachment of Umkhonto Wesizo Women's League will be appointed, of course, by the National High Command. So the NEC will appoint the Women's League. They will be appointed. All eligible members of Umkhonto Wesizo Women's League are obliged to be members of MK Party. I've also said that. Umkhonto Wesizo Youth League, youth relatively, they say relatively autonomous organization of Umkhonto Wesizo, and it must be for comrades who are the ages of 13 and 30 years old, meaning that those who have marked their 31st birthday will not be eligible to be members of MKP. So in the MKP, once you do your 31st birthday, that's your graduation age in the Youth League. So do you know what is troubling with this age of 13? If they were here, I would ask them. I don't know if they've also already spoken about this, but what is of interest here is at age 13, a teenager cannot be a member of MKP. It says the National Youth Detachment of Umkhonto Wesizo Youth League will be appointed by the National Higher Command of Umkhonto Wesizo Party through the Secretary General and the National Organizer, that is Floyd. The Youth League is not permitted to launch campus-based branches in institutions of higher learning because that will be the terrain of student movement. So they're just trying to avoid these guys. All eligible members of Umkhonto Wesizo Youth League are obliged to be members of MK Party. So here's the problem. The problem is MKP says kids who are 13 years old, from 13 years old until they are 30, they can be members of MKP. But there's a limit here. The limit says MKP can be joined by people who are 16 and above. So are they going to allow 13-year-olds to be members of the Youth League? I do not know, because they are below the age of consent. I do not know how they are going to do it. Will that membership be binding on themselves or their parents? Or I don't know how they are going to do this, because the 13 is the mark for these kids. And I don't know. Maybe someone will come and explain this. Thank you. Student interest and special. So this is the student movement, more like Student Command and SASCO. Okay, maybe let me read this. Clause 3 of Section 10, Umkhonto Wesizo Student Movement says, Umkhonto Wesizo Student Movement will fight for free education, quality, decolonized higher education. So let me tell you where the problem is with this clause. The leader, I call him the leader because I spoke to someone in MK, said, well, Bonkosi Kanyile is still the leader of the Youth League. If they have removed him, I do not know. He has a criminal record. He still has pending cases. He has served time because Jacob Zuma administration has led him to go to jail. But he says he has forgotten and he has forgiven Jacob Zuma for that. Umkhonto Wesizo Student Movement will fight for free, quality, decolonized higher education. That is what got Bonkosi Kanyile to lose his youth. I'm just exaggerating by saying he lost his youth, but he served time and he's troubled. Umkhonto Wesizo Student Movement leadership must not be above the age of 30. Umkhonto Wesizo Student Movement strictly to be led by registered students who are academically excellent. Academically excellent, I've got a problem with that. You are going to, who's going to declare excellency in this regard? And of course, these kids are going to be appointed by the National High Command as well. So are they going to be submitting CVs, or I don't know how it's going to happen. Any member of Umkhonto Wesizwe Party who takes the organization to court without exhausting internal processes as outlined in the Code of Conduct will be automatically expelled. So if you take MK to court and they feel you have not exhausted all levels, you are automatically expelling yourself. The constitution of Umkhonto Wesizwe Party can be amended and sections added through the National High Command of Umkhonto Wesizwe Party. So it's doable. If you're not happy with this, you can change it. The intricacies and the democracy involved with that, I do not know. Maybe you can write to the officials and try to convince them whether you'll come as a number, because you would hear this constitution doesn't speak much about democracy, and a lot of people maybe strengthening an issue doesn't talk about that. Maybe if you've got merit, they might look at that. It is signed by the president and founder of Umkhonto Wesizwe, President Jacob Gedleyihlekisa Zuma umhlanganyelwa. Yeah, so I'm going to read this one. Using insulting language towards any member of MKP, a political opponent, and members of the public, this will take you to DC. So any member who's not happy with what I've read today of MKP, and you swear at me on TikTok or anywhere, I've got a right to screenshot this, give it to Floyd, say, Amara Floyd, you see, your people are breaking the constitution. Their ethics are not befitting of the decorum of what a member of the MKP should be like in public. So let us engage in robust debate without being tempted to swear at people. I keep saying on this podcast, thank you for those who allow me to fairly criticize them, because the constitution has told us today that fair criticism is fine. Allow me to criticize you, and don't swear at me when I do it, because I don't do it to mean bad things. I do it because I'm independent, and I need to put critique. Heckling and disrupting of meetings. Possession of dangerous weapons such as guns, fighting knives, pangas in meetings of the organization or regulated areas of the organization. Let's say maybe it may not be in a meeting, but at a function or event where MKP is there, carrying those dangerous weapons in itself, it's a contravention of their code of ethics. Undertaking international trips and partaking in activities and programs that are opposed to the agenda of the MKP party. Click. It reminds me of who? Mpomorolane, who has left the EFF to MK. One of the gripes of Mpomorolane was he traveled to USA, and the party told him not to go to USA, but he went because he waited for them to check what could be wrong, and they did not come, so he went. When he came back, he was suspended, and he fell out of favor with the leadership that be. Even though he kept coming back, but he didn't leave MK because there was no one that he could sit with and agree with him on this one. Inciting racism, sexism, tribalism, religious, political intolerance, regionalism, or any form of discrimination. So if you do any of this, we have read it before, if you do any of this, you are in contravention of the code of ethics here. So that will be it. So tribalism is a specific thing that they don't want. I'm trying not to dwell too much, because what I want to do is I want you to listen to other people who have spoken about this. I think I've shared my views on each and every item that I've read. I want you to listen to others who are speaking about what MKP constitutions means to them. Mashani Politically Incorrect, let's share. What do you think of it? I've encouraged, by the way, MKP. Remember I spoke about the Bela Huvo in Limpopo, where when it came back, there were rumblings of MKP wants this thing to be, Zuma to be the supreme leader of the organization and stuff. I say, put it on paper, put it in black and white. Don't be ashamed. Don't be ashamed. If you are, by the way, in fact, let me talk about this. In the previous policy conference. I forgot who's the lady, the sole lady in the leadership, in the national officials. She was answering a question of why does MK have two headquarters, one in Gauteng and one in KwaZulu-Natal. She explained beautifully the Gauteng one. She battled to explain KwaZulu-Natal, and I don't. The reason I was disappointed with that answer is because there's no need to hide that MK is at its most strongest in KwaZulu-Natal, and if you think the best opportunity for ANC to take a province without contest is KwaZulu-Natal. That's the best performing province, and if they consolidate their headquarters in KwaZulu-Natal, it will entrench them to about 60, maybe 65%. They can go for those numbers because this is where they concentrate their power. I also said MKP must shy away from this thing of being seen as a Zulu nationalist party. Don't do it. Don't do it. For now, I've recommended and I've commended them many times for not wanting to go to conferences, because I also don't go to conferences. It will disrupt you. This thing of wanting to appease to people, and I'm not, in a way, I'm not happy with this thing of gender parity being enforced in here, because what will happen is, if you do not meet the numbers, you will most likely take any leader, even if the leader is not up to par, because you want to be constitutionally correct. And this is one of the reasons that the ANC is battling with. Not that ANC does not have women leaders. It has them. But because sometimes they need to feel things forced by the constitution, it ends up failing. Let me give an example. Who do you think in the ANC can be the president, a female president? Unlikely. Julius Malema can have Umphile Mautu as the president. He can have as the president. So if you keep forcing yourself of this gender parity, I understand what it means, but it must not be a constitutional binding thing without exceptions, because exceptions must be there constitutionally to say, yes, ideally we want to have 1, 2, 3. But if circumstances are so pressing, that's why you see co-option into structures is important. You would even see it here. This thing of co-opting members into certain structures, it's very key, and I love it, because it will then involve to say, guys, the woman that we want is not present. The woman that we want, we can headhunt her. Or the gentleman that we want, who is particular on mining, is not in conference, but we've allowed to co-opt 3 members. Let us use that opportunity to go and headhunt these people to come and capacitate us. You'll see, this is what I asked Comrade Sihle when we met in Kagiso. He's a member of parliament. I said, Comrade Sihle, your members of MKP may not understand that certain capacities, when you build this organization, are not on the ground forces. Some you have to outsource them to come and bring them in, so you can grow the party. Are you going to struggle, or are you struggling to communicate this to MKP members so they do not think that when you are seeing parachuting people, you are doing it against them? So it's one of those things. So where political parties have to work with it. By the way, Julius Malema is blamed for parachuting people. Now they are leaving him because he have parachuted them. But even if he didn't parachute them, they would have left even earlier. So it's one of those. Parachuting, there's nothing you can do to avoid it, because when you co-opt someone, you're actually parachuting him. Anyway, machine politically incorrect. I don't want it to be long. Listen to others what they say, and let's talk about what the MKP constitution talks about. It's been a long time coming. Jacob Zuma is so much big a figure that it didn't matter to comrades, the commanders, if this thing came out or not. You would know that document is not even called a manifesto. It's called the People's Contract. I can't remember what it's called. It came at the eve of the elections, because people did not care what it says. They just wanted MKP. By the way, one last thing topical. Floyd said MKP, this nonsense of open borders is not there, and you see it's not in the it's not in the constitution. So are many other things. If you want to draw this from EFF side and want to talk about the strong pillars, you can do that, just so we just oppose this. But at least now we understand on paper what MKP stands for and how it says it's going to run. There are a lot of things that I've pointed out that I think is going to be a challenge. You see those VDs, branches, and the detachment in the branches and stuff. Maybe the reason I don't understand them is I've not seen them working. As MKP grows, we'll see them, and maybe we'll stop being doubting Thomases, because maybe we'll see them operating. But like I said, it's going to be a tall order for Floyd Shibamb. My share politically incorrect. Unfortunately, I could not make this a short one because it's the constitution. I have to dwell on everything that I read, and I think it's topical. Listen to what others say. Thank you very much. Eitada.
The point, and then further down at the bottom, you'll see the transfer of ownership of the land and natural resources into the hands of the people as a whole. EFF and MK is often referred to as the Doomsday Coalition, mostly by Swart Gevaar propagandists and that kind of thing. But in the Constitution, they're quite honest and they say, we are working in the interest of all people of the country, black, brown, and white, whose future happiness and well-being cannot be attained without the overthrow of the nationalist government, the abolition of white supremacy.
And that is the way we'll proceed.
Yeah, and do you have plans, though, to hold an elective conference?
Not in the immediate future.
So how do the members of the MK party then find full expression in the leadership and be confident that this is a leadership that they have elected?
But Clement, as I've indicated, there's not only one way to deal with it. We can have a consultative conference where all the members are represented.
This one, personally, a little bit tough for me. I don't know if I could do it. But it says that no member of the MKP will be allowed to throw insults at anyone, including political opponents, even in instances where they have been insulted or provoked by opponents. Even Oppenheimer proxies. Yes. And then it's also unlikely that members of the DA would jump ship to the MK, because it says all members of MKP must always seek to pursue further studies, including further diplomas, degrees, and certificates. So I don't think the matriculant party is gonna, it's fine. You don't have to worry about them coming in.
MK party, do you as the party consider yourself as a democratic organization?
Yes, we consider ourselves very much as a democratic organization, just in highly unusual and very difficult circumstances.
So what are the democratic principles you think the organization espouses? And I'm asking that just to understand where the party is coming from, because my understanding of a democratic organization is that it's controlled democratically by its members with equal rights. The leaders are democratically elected, and I noticed in the Constitution that there is no agency with the election of leaders, and there's some powers that are concentrated within the office of the president.
Well, I think number one of the main things is the Constitution is a living document. And the Constitution right now addresses the situation that the party faces, right?
So concentrated in the president of the party, because your Constitution says the president is responsible for the deployment, appointment, and removal of all officials, even members of the National High Command. The president also has the ultimate power to issue presidential decrees on any matter in the organization, including policy, which will be binding and on all levels of the organization. It seems like he is made to be a supreme leader who can just decide anything.
The president is entrusted with the organization. The organization, there have been already attempts to infiltrate it. And partially it's been because of those powers that MK exists today.
But the president can surround himself with people that he also trusts, who trust him as well, that can help him make those decisions. At this level,
he has surrounded himself with those people.
So why is he the only
that's
one
why
that
the
must take these
officials,
decisions?
I'm saying that's why the officials are there. That's why the National High Command is there. We've nearly codified that.
Yeah. So you don't think that the power could be abused? So if the president wakes up and decides to remove you or the Secretary General and some people are unhappy about it?
All of us serve at the pleasure of the president. It's pretty much very clear. Like cabinet ministers serve at the pleasure of the president. We're making it as if it's something new.
Well, that's
yes, I'm saying in the state, at a government level.
Which other political party do you know that operates like that in this country?
Which other political party faces the sort of threats that MK does? Which political party has been hunted down to the extent that MK has? Which political party has been tried to be denied registration, denied the right to participate in an election? Which political party has faced the sort of attacks that MK has? We've got to respond to the reality of the situation, not to some hypothetical universe that we don't live in.